What are your protocols?
Protocol 1. Link to pilot. Protocol 2. Uphold the mission.
So, you have beaten Titanfall 2's exceptional and criminally underappreciated single-player campaign, only to try to hop online and find out that Titanfall multiplayer is currently virtually unplayable, all because some salty hacker is relentlessly committing DDoS attacks on their servers. So, you fucking missed out. Too bad, so sad. But, you still have that burning desire to pilot some giganto robo-bopper need your mecha fix. Well, worry not. I got you fucks covered. Welcome to Gaming Niche, the channel where we cover all your gaming vibe checks and help you find exactly what you're looking for. Today we're going to be covering Mecha. I mean, who the hell doesn't want to hop on their big mom of a giant robot and go toe-to-toe with aliens, giant lizards, insects, and big titty animated robots? Yeah, anyways, today we'll only be covering games that let you take full control of mech suits. So, sorry Xenogears, Front Mission, and Astra Breed. But don't worry, there'll be videos out for all those different types of niches because there's no shortage. God damn it, believe you me. All that said, let's get on with this show. Oh yeah, wait, and if you're one of those motherfuckers that haven't even touched Titanfall yet...
Protocol 3. Protect the pilot.
Get out of this house!
Please. Please. We good?
For starters, we're taking it back to the old school with this little gem from the Super Nintendo, Cybernator, aka Assault Suit Vulcan by the late great Messiah Company, also known for creating Chowaniki. You know, that crazy ass game series about being an ultra muscular, heavy titted, half naked, sweaty schmuck. Yeah, you know. Anyway. Although not the first mecha game, that honor would have to go to Keiryū Senshi Gundam Part 1 Gundam Daishi ni Tatsu. And Cybernator also has a prequel called Assault Suit Linos, aka Target Earth here in the States, which is a bargain bin Contra I don't really care to give much attention to beyond that, because unlike the other two games, I've come to find that Cybernator was one of, if not the first, to really capture what it feels like to be in control of a mech. You will not be running around like some Mega Man knockoff, rather movement of the game feels heavy, borderline sluggish. The first few moments of this game almost feel like you're off of your training wheels as an inexperienced pilot tripping over yourself, but it quickly becomes second nature and you'll be launching haymakers of 25mm A-grade steel into the heart of your enemies in no time. The game is fairly linear and doesn't offer much of a strategic challenge, giving it that real arcade feel from the 80s and 90s, where this fucker only cares to take your quarters, but that doesn't stop it from being a kick-ass game. Be sure to give this one a shot. Next up is Gun Hazard, based on the Front Mission universe, more known for their turn-based strategy games. This entry takes direct inspiration from Cybernator. Brought to you by Omiya Soft, who would go on to make the Culticept series, which is like a video game, board game, debt, slavery, simulator kind of series.
You know, I paid a pretty penny for you. You seem a young and capable lad. I'd say I got quite the bargain in you.
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of board games, going from Cybernator to Gun Hazard feels a lot like going from checkers to chess, but what feels like a natural progression of gameplay. Taking everything from the former, released 4 years earlier, and expanding upon it in every way. Turning the format into an RPG as well as incorporating a feature that would come to define the mech genre. Customization. With the ability to fully trick out your Wanzer mech from chassis, primary and secondary weapons, mobility and buff options to even the items you can use outside of your mech, as well as that of the companions you decide to take on missions. All the while boasting that trademark impressive narrative commonly found in the Front Mission series, the story has a massive scale and is filled to the gills with geopolitics and philosophy. With roughly 12 hours of gameplay, this is surely not one to miss.
Sigma Lead, this is Sigma 2. Any idea what we're up against?
Well-equipped strike forces. Probably the 5th Donegal.
That's my old unit. Why would our own forces attack us?
It was inevitable. Everything has changed.
So here we are. This is the game that started it all for me in Mecha. The Mech Warrior series, specifically Mech Warrior 4. I remember going to my neighbor's house as a kid in the 90s, jumping on his potato PC and, at even 15 frames per second, feeling for the very first time the true weight and scale of these massive frames in Mecha. Fully loaded with a whole arsenal of lasers, Gatling guns, and missile barrages, all primed to be unleashed on whatever vomit-stained can of beer people dare to call a battle mech, or whatever dick stain too unfortunate to happen upon my way.
Lance Leader, Jaguars are splitting up. I repeat, the mechs have split up.
I can still distinctly recall myself thinking, holy shit, this is the future. This is the hellfire fuck future.
Big Al, stand by to intercept. Moving to position.
Derived from the tabletop RPG miniature war game BattleTech, the MechWarrior series is America's take on Mecha. Highly futuristic yet nearly modern, MechWarrior feels much more grounded than the Japanese counterparts. You are not going to see laser swords and armor suits zooming around in space at Mach speeds. Rather, you're going to be at the helm of mighty bipedal walking tanks and feel a lot more like the Ents from Lord of the Rings than some giant armored samurai Power Ranger doing backflips and shit. Because of this, everything is methodical, and often you have to think 10 steps in advance to compensate for the weight you will be carrying into these battles. MechWarrior further cements customization as a staple of the mech genre in spades, with up to 60 mechs to choose from on deployments, depending on the game, to allowing you not only to outfit your chosen mech, but also those of your squad mates. Handed through several developers, most notably Activision and FASA Studio, FASA?
Do it again.
Yeah, whatever. And with plenty of titles to choose from, it can be a little daunting to find which MechWarrior game to first get your gears going, or to come back to after a long hiatus. Well, don't get a bug up your ass, that's what I'm here for. After much deliberation with the powers that be, there seems to be a community agreement that these two standalone expansion packs are the best games in the series, with only a few entries following close behind. Yes, even compared to the newest release of March 2021, MechWarrior 5. Developed by small-scale studio Piranha Games, MechWarrior 5 is said to be a solid entry, but not a great one. This newest installment is marred with a terrible story, clunky multiplayer, and the only real selling point in my eyes is the mod potential, and maybe to keep the official franchise going. At any rate, let's get to that high-grade shit. It's very much a toss-up between MechWarrior 2 Mercenaries and MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries, and it really just depends on your taste and what you're willing to put up with. MechWarrior 2 Mercenaries has a more restrictive campaign where failure is an option, creating a deeper sense of immersion and better economy than its counterpart, although to detract from that is the unbridled customization options that allow for the creation of ridiculous min-max monstrosities. It's also buggy as all hell for some machines, but that said, it's still almost universally lauded as the absolute pinnacle of the series, and you also have Deadeye.
Morning! How's it feel to be strapped into a walking nuke reactor at 6 a.m.? Bet you're sorry you didn't study harder in school, huh? Hit that throttle. You'll be killing people before breakfast today. Soldiers, mostly. Maybe some civilians.
On the other hand, MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries has a hardpoint customization system that gives different mechs their own character, which is a system I personally prefer. It also heralds a dynamic campaign and runs smoothly with more precise hit detection and the bugs of the former ironed out. On the downside, many complain of MechWarrior 4 feeling arcadey, with a slower time to kill. Some say battles drag on. But hey, with the greater draw distance, at least long-range combat is finally an option. And you also got the dynamic soundtrack to boot. Getting your hands on a copy shouldn't be too difficult, as a classic series is considered abandonware and can be found hosted on any good old video game preservation website. But the way the gaming industry is heading with the recent GTA debacle, who knows how long that'll last. So don't get caught beating it around the bush or however that goes.
The media saw us as young gods, lords of war, striding the battlefield in our engines of destruction. The holovids captured our stories and spun them.
The Thor V1, 35 feet tall, 83.5 tons, carries 2 large laser cannons.
And enough missiles for the Chinese New Year's. This is not my first barbecue, though.
MechWarrior is also the series to introduce us to multiplayer with a long history spanning since the second entry, at least from what I can tell. But we are far from the days of those legendary LAN parties and online arcade pods. So that leaves us with a question. What do we have on offer these days? Well, you might think I'd point to the obvious MechWarrior Online for your competitive fix. Sadly, we're also far from the days of a celebrated mainline entry, so I can't really wholeheartedly recommend MechWarrior Online. You can check out the great Mandalore Gaming and the review of MechWarrior Online to know a bit of what I'm getting at.
The combat in MechWarrior Online is solid. It's everything else around it.
Anyway, Thankfully, we have a large community of Battletech fanatics doing the God's work with the project MechWarrior Living Legends. Huzzah. Living Legends is a total conversion mod for Crysis, but you don't need to have Crysis play this game as it was released for free as a standalone project with Microsoft's sanction. Living Legend is also significant for being the first game in the MechWarrior series to have combined arms, allowing players to operate a wide range of vehicles alongside mechs, from tanks, hovercrafts, VTOLs, fighter jets, to running around as a wee lad of the wee people. Be warned, if you decide to dive headfirst into this one with no prior knowledge, you're going to be a real dick in the mud, as there's no hand-holding in League of Legends. I mean, in Living Legends. So if you absolutely insist on this being your first pick in the series, have a wiki prepared. Also, if you would be so inclined to partake in heavy slathering of Battletech lore laced with a smoky voice soaked in whiskey while you bust machines down, I highly recommend the Mad Lad text of the Black Pants Legion to show you a bit of the ropes as well as for being in tune when the player base jumps to absurd levels during his streams.
In the following 6 months of rigorous training, you'll be pushed beyond your limits. When this is all over, you will be the best there is. So you can thank me when I'm busting your powder fresh ass.
What made you go with that?
Is that understood?
Pause. Hey, yeah.
Alright, up next in the selection is for the real sim heads out there, Steel Battalion, brought to you by our friends at Nudemaker and Capcom. Specifically Capcom Production Studio 4. The scrappy subdivision who would eventually be responsible for bringing us the, at the time, revolutionary Resident Evil 4. Notably, Atsushi Inaba would be sitting at the producer's chair with a hard motive to show what can be done in the game industry that cannot be done in others. Inaba, for those unfamiliar, is that fucking freak who absolutely insists to constantly push the boundaries of video games and holds a vice grip fixation on the expansive world, stylish fun, and tight mechanics as a priority of his works. Like, who the fuck wants that shit? I just want my Call of Duty shooter mans where I do the same shit for the next 20 years, screaming at randos because they need to delete the game, screaming at friends because I always have to carry, screaming at my restraining order for screaming at my significant other when the game decides to glitch out on me. Anyways, you might know the motherfucker for creating these god tier games and become the head producer of the development division for Platinum Games. Well, before all that, he was cutting his teeth here, creating the closest mech simulation available on console, along with this monstrosity of a controller, the Mega Jockey 9000. With 44 input points, mainly buttons, but it also uses 2 joysticks, a throttle handle, a radio channel dial for God knows what reason, 5 switches, an eject button, and 3 foot pedals. Only limited quantities were ever made available, making this game a collector's piece, easily the most expensive choice on this list, but that's to be expected in die-hard simhead territory. I mean, the game even simulates your vertical tank, aka VT, toppling over from mishandling or turning too hard. Window wipers in case of mud hitting the monitor, and if the player does not eject when prompted, the player's in-game character will die, and the game will delete its own saved data, prompting the player to start over from the beginning. But yeah, I've yet to touch it because I'm a broke motherfucker, although from what I can tell the gameplay is amazing. As the players progress, new generations of VTs become available. This allows for newer, more advanced operating systems, a faster startup sequence, and more combat functions, as well as a wider cockpit view and layout. New generation VTs also handle better and can provide better firepower over previous generations. If you're a balling ass son of a bitch, check these 2 channels who did an amazing job covering the subject and grab this game. Have you ever wanted your Mecha with a hefty side of monster truck mobility scooters, a 10,000 calorie quadruple bypass burger, and bulletproof backpacks in case of elementary school shootings? Well, shit in a hat and call me Larry, do I have a surprise for you. As a Texas boy, arguably the most American state of the United States, I can tell you what.
Do you think the world is ready for Metal Wolf Chaos?
覚悟が足りなかったら覚悟してほしいですね。
Let's party! Welcome to the White House.
Although it can't quite capture the feeling of being magged up by a police officer for wrestling an alligator spun off meth on the 4th of July, Metal Wolf Chaos is about the most American game you can find out there, strangely enough, made by the Japanese. Take that, Ghost of Tsushima. Even stranger, it was never released in the United States, but thanks to our pals at Digital Devolver, we could finally sink our teeth into this pure Americana high-calorie foaming at the mouth with gratuitous violence and blind patriotism filtered through the cheesiest anime imaginable.
That's pointless, Mr. President! Nothing is pointless! And the reason is because I'm the President of the great United States of America!
So, can I get a hell yeah for Digital Devolver?
Hell yeah!
Originally brought to you by FromSoft, yes, that FromSoft, with all the demons and the souls and the rings and the dying and all that shit.
I think I'll take my reward, and of course, thank you, Dark Souls.
Well, before their claim to fame, they released Metal Wolf Chaos back in 2004. Just about predicting future events in which U.S. President and Vice President lock horns for the heart of America during a coup.
No, you heard those chants. That was terrible. I mean, it was, you know, they're saying hang my...
Because it's common sense, John.
The player takes on the role of Michael Wilson, as in the fictional descendant of the former U.S. President Woodrow Wilson.
Who the fuck is that? Is he even on money?
No, but he made it legal for women to vote, creating child labor laws, and was a staunch enemy of corporations, helping codify the 8-hour work week. So I guess he's a good guy. Oh no. On the other side of this conflict is pro-slavery warmonger Dick Cheney. Hawk, who deposed of Wilson in the military coup and enacts all kinds of horrible policies like selling his own citizens as slaves, testing weapons on civilians, and enacting martial law because of... When your crusade for freedom, you'll be stomping around in an 8-gun mech suit and delivering outrageous dialogue while suppressing a coup, and must fight your way through destructive environments full of enemy infantry, tanks, and helicopters. So, are you missing a penchant for the insanely patriotic? Are you ready to take back your rights from tyranny and bring freedom and justice for all, whether they want it or not? Could you be living a bigger, better, bolder life? Try Metal Wolf Chaos XD. Metal Wolf Chaos XD may cause side effects such as headache, nausea, diarrhea, loss of balance, loss of sight, loss of hearing, loss of chill, loss of common sense, heart palpitations, heart arrhythmia, heart attack, hostility, unsolicited dick pics, Demi Lovato songs, Logan Paul movies, predatory lending, gerrymandering, acid forfeiture, chronic earwax, paracusia, acute belly button rent, gout, depression, anxiety, Scientology, alcoholism, maternity death, multiple sclerosis, single cirrhosis, divorce cirrhosis, it's complicated cirrhosis, paralysis, hyperactivity, oligarchy, cronyism, TikTokism, Marxism, QAnonism, Matrixism, sudden clarity and awareness of the surroundings and situation, existential dread, suicide, and an enlarged poopa. Ask your doctor if Metal Wolf Chaos XD is right for you.
The best medicine for that kind of headache is pumping it full of a heavy dose of lead.
So, I might have misspoken when I said Mech Warrior is what started all for me in Mecha. It very well might have been this arcade classic, Vol.1 Cyber Troopers. Easily my favorite arcade game growing up in the 90s, besides the coin-crunching Alien vs. Predator and the delightfully wicked Carnival. Unlike the latter two, I didn't need my friends to get far in VO, so if by chance I found myself alone at the Pizza Piper, I would most definitely be at these sticks, feeling like a real badass Gundam pilot at 11 years old. Especially so, considering Hajime Kotoki, the well-known mechanical artist for the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, most notably Gundam Wing, designed these mechs. Developed by Sega's AM3 team, now known as Hitmaker, Vol.1 is one of the true originators of the arena combat style games, later popularized by the likes of Power Stone and Jump Force. This game grants you full 360 control over your mech, with a very unique control scheme which utilizes a dual joystick setup that emulates the controls of your favorite anime for that extra immersion.
Very, very immersive.
Although an arcade staple, it was later ported to the Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, and PC here in the West. To save y'all some trouble, I highly recommend you do not get the Dreamcast version, unless you absolutely have to. Trust me. Sadly, for various reasons, none of these options are the optimal way of playing this game in present time. Not to say that there isn't any remasters or remakes for modern hardware of this amazing game, but for some stupid ass reason, Sega refuses to release them outside of Japan. But not to worry, I did a bit of sleuthing and I found out that you can find Vol.1 tucked away inside the arcade section of Yakuza Kiwami with a nifty price tag of $20. That price for two amazing games, how can you go wrong? Keeping it in line with the 90s, I bring you this sleeper hit late entry to the original PlayStation, Omega Boost. The PlayStation's answer to Sega's Panzer Dragoon and Nintendo's Star Fox. And by God, did they knock it out of the damn stratosphere with this one.
Hey man, did you pack extra socks?
Yeah, and the family Christmas picture.
If you're a major fan of the Macross anime series, you owe it to yourself to hunt down this game, as it features mecha designs by Soji Kawamori, the creator of said anime, and is still considered one of the best Macross-style mech simulation games produced, even compared to the mainline Macross games. Truly a forgotten gem, I virtually have nothing bad to say about this release from Polyphony Digital Studio, best known for creating the Gran Turismo series, famous for its detail and tight controls which carries over masterfully into Omega Boost. The game is almost hypnotic with its polish, sets out some of the best graphics on the console with parts of the game running at 60 frames. It was well known for pushing the hardware to its limits. Its sound design is also bar none, even by today's standards, and the soundtrack is a fucking phenomenal psychedelic time capsule into the 90s soundscapes, filled to the brim with the hip-hop infused blast beats of drum and bass and edgy industrial metal the likes of Static X. Alright, I'm willing to bet that less than 10% of the viewership will know of or care much for the granddaddy of mecha and anime. Tetsujin 28, and its American counterpart, strangely enough, with much of its violence toned down.
Torbato, defender of freedom, Torbato, protector from fear, Torbato, the robot that tortures people.
I said with its violence toned down. There you go. Well, this is a show in which the original Detective Shotokan boy, literally named Shota, takes the helm of a massive World War robot to duke it out with Yakuza. I mean terrorists and aliens. It's really nothing special by today's standards, but we would not have Gundam, Evangelion, or Code Geass as we know it today if it weren't for this post-war nuclear fever dream projected by the late Mitsutaro Yokoyama. So, for those who do care, or those remotely interested in having some reverence for the past, boy do I have a treat for you.
The evacuations aren't complete? I've got to do something! Volguera's dead ahead! It's coming your way!
This right here is the closest we'll ever get to a proper Tetsujin 28 giant robo simulator here in the West. Gigantic Drive, aka RAD, Robotic Alchemic Drive.
What? What is that? Another robot?
Made by Sandlot shortly after being one of the 4 companies that splintered off when developer and publisher Human Entertainment went bankrupt, whom under the moniker made notorious mindfucks like Mazerna Falls Clock Tower and Twilight Syndrome. It truly doesn't get any more classic anime than this, with a completely absurd story, mangled English dialogue akin to the official Dragon Ball Big Green dub, and that god-awful Japanese pacing found since way back.
Man, he has been at this for like 20 hours.
It has been 5 minutes.
It's called hyperbole, big guy.
But if you can stomach that, or rather if that shit is your thing, you got a beautiful piece of work here with a very creative control scheme and a sense of scale that hasn't been quite captured since.
The situation has taken a turn for the worse. Senjo, already devastated by an enormous humanoid weapon, has...
You don't pilot the robot from a cockpit. Rather, much like the anime it's derived from, you control the tiny person who's controlling the giant mecha robot as you kick big bitch alien ass in a fully destructible city. Wait a minute, is that Future Spike? Wait, can we have like a... Is this like a offshoot of Cowboy Bebop where we get to see Spike if he didn't fucking... Oh, never mind. Well, at least it's still cool to know that one of my favorite artists, Toshihiro Komodo, had a hand in this project. Anyway, yeah, you can pick from 3 mechs, a brawler, one that turns into a jet, and the other a tank, all of which can be customized with chest beams, rocket punches, flamethrowers, and missiles as the game progresses. Look, y'all, I'm not gonna say that this is a perfect game, but you really cutting yourself short by not picking this up and checking out a really unique experience. Here we are with the most modern of the bunch, Vox Machina, basically MechWarrior but in VR. And if you're a broke fuck like me, no worries, this game is mouse and keyboard compatible. Coming from small-time Vancouver developer Space Bullet Dynamics, it looks like this game has it all. Visuals are greedy yet easy on the eyes, gameplay is tight and responsive, customization is expansive, and the immersion outstanding. Apparently, Vox also runs great on lower-end potato PCs. Everything is just great. Except for this one little thing, you know.
Oh no!
It looks like the developers have decided to go the route of the now-defunct Hawken and make a strictly multiplayer experience, leaving 100% of the value from the game hinging on other people playing the game, which would be fine. But this is coming from a small-time studio, and let's just say they have not been able to pull in the number of players to keep a healthy multiplayer experience. Which is a shame because the passion, skill, and dedication is absolutely oozing from this game, and I would just hate for this project to follow in the footsteps of Hawken by Adhesive Games, which was a solid game as well. Luckily, the player base for Vox Machina is a passionate one, and even have gone as far as ordaining Thursdays as official game night. There's also a significant number of players asking for a single-player option, but yet to hear any word from the developers. But they have recently added AI. Although the eye in the AI is dismal at best, I believe it's a step in the right direction. Ultimately, I want this game to succeed and hope that this video could be a small drop in the bucket for a bright future for Vox Machina.
Vox Machina!
Wait, yo, what's that on the horizon?
Singaro Perea.
Damn, as of closing out this motherfucking video, it turns out that the fucking developers have actually listened to the community and put in a single player. And kind of illuminating how jaded I am to this industry because I was not holding my breath, but I'm glad to see it, especially considering how cool this looks.
It's essential to maintain a good relationship with your team. I hope you understand that. Without trust, you have nothing to fall back on.
So what are y'all waiting for? Get your ass in gear and hop in that cockpit.
Head to the hangar!
Let's move. Enemies in security.
When's the last time you've gone to space?
There are so many games I could end this video with, and frankly, I haven't been able to cover some of my favorites. But people are gonna lose their shit if I don't include this series. Actually, people are gonna lose their shit for including this series. At least that is if I don't do this right and pick one side or another's favorite game in the generation wars. The Armored Core series, the console's answer to MechWarrior. Created by returning underdog FromSoft, previously their most successful IP before the Soulsborne era, you can really see that DNA that would be eventually encoded into the Dark Souls series, with FromSoft elements like a convoluted bleak story that seemingly takes a back seat and makes you figure it all out by yourself.
And so we reached out. But there were some who did not accept God's offering. They intended to destroy the Order.
For starters, the story goes, you are a lonely merc being juggled between corporations and proxy wars to the point of abuse, and eventually work with nation states to rein them in. Artificial intelligence get involved, and shit hits the fan from there.
Army numbers swelled, and the once proud mercenaries found themselves ostracized for refusing to take sides.
Yeah, just more of that probable future shit, you know? Pretty fucking cool. Anyway, Armored Core is known for its spreadsheet customization, steep learning curves, frantic Mach-speed combat, and a fanatic fan base that will most likely chop my head off in the coming weeks for speaking heresy against the holy gospel of Nineball. I really do hope you all appreciate the risk I'm taking in this endeavor. To fuel the flame war, much like MechWarrior, there's a lot of entries in this series, 23 of them to be exact, and if you're new to Armored Core, it can be hard to figure out where to sink your teeth. But luckily, I'm here with the War Report to ensure your bonds and investments are secure. Alright, apparently Armored Core is split up into 5 generations, each with their factions ready to rip each other's schmageggies off if they ever encounter each other in the wild. Generation 1 is great and can still stand toe-to-toe with all the factions to come, but are out here like a bunch of insurgents using antiquated weaponry. Still, reports suggest that they are widely considered to be the most fun out in the field. Generation 2 started the war on phenomenal footing, but fell off hard in its second and last endeavor. Like the Russians, they're known for being the first to take the fight into outer space. Generation 3 can be considered the well-rounded of the bunch, with a lot of security in its investment because it holds the most titles with the highest population, and its no-nonsense policies grant easy access to those interested in getting involved with the cause. That said, there are troubling reports that they have been found lacking in their PvP engagements and have followed suit to their immediate predecessor, having lost a lot of ground in their final pushes on the war. Generation 4 marshals in the high-tech factions to the war. Initially, their presence was quite meager, but they managed to pull ahead in their last pushes and have maintained a presence ever since. I'd say that high-tech is a bit of a stretch considering that their technology is about 20 years old now. Generation 5 followed suit in Generation 4's vein, strangely enough all without any flight capabilities and one of the most rigorous recruitment parameters imaginable. Alright, enough with this stupid analogy. It looks like, ultimately, Armored Core 3 and 3 Silent Line are the best starters for beginners, without the steep learning curve that comes with the on-edge simulation aspects of late 3rd generation and 5th generation. But for those not interested in the retro, in another similarity to Mech Warrior, pick up Armored Core 4, 4 Answer, and Armored Core 5, Verdict Day, because the original AC4 and AC5 suck ass, with note that Verdict Day is one of the most sim-heavy titles ever. Like, you will need a fucking field manual to figure that game out. Are they okay? Alright. By the way, I'm just kidding, where this series was once famous for having some of the most daunting and fanatic fan bases, that no longer seems to be the case. The days of the Flame War are long behind the community, and the Armored Core fans are the friendliest and most helpful of fans, unlike those sunshine-eating Dark Souls. Wait, what? Oh, fuck! Ah!